All right, my friends. Aaron here bringing you some honest astrology for Thursday, January 9th, 2020. We've got the moon moving into Cancer. All right, connecting with the North Node, getting ready for that big eclipse that we're going to have on the 10th. All right, we've got Mercury and the Sun meeting up together in Capricorn at 18 degrees. All right, let me show you the chart here for a quick second. Show you what's going on. All right, so Mercury and the Sun here at 18 degrees. Saturn and Pluto are both at 22 degrees, getting closer every day to the 12th when they're exact conjunction, but we're certainly feeling this now. Saturn, our physical world, Pluto, death and transformation, both in the sign of government. Capricorn here, how we're governing ourselves, and government is large. We're under great transformation, right? We see a vision for the future, and we're feeling a vision for the future, even if it isn't the current world we desire to live in, or maybe that's not coming out right. The current, it's like, be the change you want to see, right? So this is embodying the change that we want to see. It starts with us. A good way to look at this, is like, we're in Detroit here. There's a lot of ghetto, you know what I mean? But there's those houses that are like, wow, you got burnt down house. And then this one right here, it's beautiful. It's like how, through all of this deterioration, all this rubble, all this crumbling down, through the riots in the 60s, through all of this stuff, this house and the owner of this saw a vision, to keep up with this place. And maybe other people were saying, why does it even matter? Why even when you've got, your entire block is burnt down? Because they saw, a vision for it. There was a reason to just keep going. And now what some people might have said, well, that's silly. Why are you bothering to take care of this place? Now, individuals can come by that and be in awe and be inspired by that, you see. So that's a really, really important aspect that's going on right now. The whole world could be falling apart. Chivalry not dead, but it's like chivalry is dead or whatever. We're not seeing these things in our environment, so it's important for us to not just fall down with it and say, well, if nobody else cares, why should I? No, because we care a great deal, and it's important for us to be authentic. It's important for us to be ourselves and live our life's purpose, and that's the beauty of Cancer Moon, North Node, and Cancer coming together at the 7th degree. It's about great imitation as well. We see this is how the teacher reacts to the students. So now we put Billy in charge here, we put Mary in charge over here, and then the teacher steps out and watches them through the window. Well, let me back it up. Maybe Billy or Mary, maybe Billy or Mary were the kid that was acting up. They say oftentimes it's like whoever's the one that's, bullying or the one that's the loud thing, if you put them in charge of some responsibility, watch their attitude change it around. So maybe they were the kids that were throwing paper wads at the back of the teacher or something, and the teacher says, you know what? I'm going to step out for a moment, and I want you to be in charge of the classroom. Give them, empower them, give them responsibility. And watch going from that point of that childlike behavior, right, into, okay, now Billy or Mary, Barry or Millie are going to be that, take on that role, take on that form, acting as if they are that person or that persona. So it's an interesting aspect that we're dealing with here, all of these things lining up. All the stuff going on in Cancer, getting ready for the big eclipse. It's going to happen on Friday. Yeah. So this is like now remembering our own authenticity while acting as if, while we're taking on that role. Because where the Sun and Mercury are meeting up here at 18 degrees, this is us saying, well, maybe what I want to do is just go play. Maybe, it's what the ego wants to do. The ego, and that's a healthy thing. Ego wants to go play. The ego wants to express itself. The ego wants to have fun. Where it's just saying, but on a certain hand, the ego needs to survive. This body needs to survive. You know, our class needs to survive. So we need to take on these roles of leadership. We need to take on and step up to the plate of not necessarily what we want to do, but what needs to be done. You know, it's like coming home with a bunch of groceries and just setting them on the floor. It's like, wow, you went shopping, but now you got to finish and you got to put the stuff away. Yeah. So there's, you know, those interesting aspects going on, because one is saying, you know, step up, be the leader, continue with this work, act accordingly, act as if, take on the persona as if you are the leader. You know, it's just like if you wake up every morning and you're putting on your crown, your kings and queens, god and goddesses, right? And though we don't have these crowns that we wear, but if we did, not if we did have them, but I'm saying if we acted as if, you know, if we acted as if we embodied that, you know, that king, like that queen, you know, attitude, you know, how are we going to be responding to other people? How are we going to look at ourselves in the mirror? You know, so on one hand we have act as if, act accordingly, act above maybe where we're at in life. You know, this is the child taking on greater responsibility. You know, it's like without being asked, you know, the child's setting the table for dinner, or the child's bringing in the groceries. You know, this is instead of going and playing with friends or doing whatever. You know, it's the student stepping up and taking on this leadership role, right? So on one hand, we have that, stepping into this leadership power, stepping into our own power, stepping into recognizing that we certainly are kings and queens, we certainly are gods and goddesses, and seeing ourselves as that in the mirror. And now on the other side, we have this aspect of authenticity, you know, this nurturing aspects down here in Cancer. And it's just like, well, if we've seen a king act like this or a queen act like this, and maybe there's a sense of entitlement that comes with those roles, you know. So now through our eyes and through our perspective, maybe we were the humble servants for a very long time. Maybe we were the peasants in the streets, you know, in an attitude-wise or whatever. And now we have to step up into this. Okay, we weren't raised with a silver spoon in our mouth, so to speak. Okay, so now that you have this sense of power, this sense of leadership, you're able to lead with a greater, again, sense of authenticity, a greater sense of self, because you've seen both sides of the spectrum. Okay, but you're no longer the peasant, you're no longer the humble servant. So it's like, you know, removing that mindset, but as well, it's like there's still an understanding there of it, you know, so that we can treat others equally. Okay, and we're beginning to see this, you know, the moon tomorrow night, you know, because look, what this is happening, this is at noon. Okay, that moon's already in Cancer. Let's move forward a couple hours. Okay, so that conjunction, you know, is right around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, Mercury catching up to the sun here. It was already at 18 degrees, but you know, either way. So that conjunction's happening again on the 9th and the 10th, you know, during this full moon lunar eclipse. So the point is we're being able to see this come into full illumination, you know, and this is like also it's like getting over our pride. Okay, it's tolerating our own failures. Right? Tolerating our own failures. And that's okay. Remember, we were over here just a little bit ago, and the sun's getting closer to that 21st degree about surrendering. Surrendering. And overcoming our own failures. So maybe we're down in the mud, but now we have a role to play. We've got to wear this crown. We have a responsibility. And with Mercury being in Capricorn as well, it's just like we're only going to speak what's absolutely necessary. Like we're talking about the past couple of days. Like, are we speaking something for our higher truth, for their higher truth? Are we speaking to lift up, or are we speaking to tear down? You know, constructive criticism is extremely important. Because if we're just saying like, hey, everything, you know, great job. You know, it's like debating things is very natural. We've gotten into this place in life where it's just like, you know, if you're not just giving a thumbs up on everything somebody says, you know, if it's not like, oh, praise you, amazing job, you know, if there's anything that we say that's not just that we take it so harshly, that this is negative criticism. And it's just like, no, there's such thing as positive criticism. You know, it's important because that rounds us out. Okay, this is the water and the earth, the flowing river, slowly moving, you know, rounding out that hard earth edge. That cold earth edge, and the flowing river, our emotions keep going, you know. So, but again, it's just speaking on what's absolutely necessary, embodying, you know, exactly that, seeing a future. How, if I were the king, if I was a multi-millionaire, how would I act? Would I act different than I am now? Would you act differently than you are now if you were a multi-gazillionaire, if you had that Jeff Bezos, that Bill Gates money, right? What would you be doing with it? You know, and then can we take these small incremental steps and say, well, I don't need $1 billion to act this way. I don't need $1 billion to respect myself or to feel loved, to feel worthy, to feel welcomed, you know. So that's our day. Again, we're leading into this great eclipse here. So it's like we're seeing our own shadow. We're seeing our full illumination on Friday or on Thursday, and then Fridays we're seeing the shadow of that illumination. You know, so it's really important that we get that full look. It's like looking at ourselves truly, looking at ourselves fully. Who am I? What am I doing here? What am I doing? You know, what are my relationships? And as well, let me come back here just for a quick second. As you see that little S, oh, that happens later on. Hold on. There it is. Okay, so this is still on Thursday around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Uranus stations direct, okay? Uranus being this great wrecking ball in the zodiac at 2 degrees, you know, of Taurus. Okay, we're just starting moving forward, and it's a very, very positive thing. You know, it goes retrograde for about 6 months every year. It's just like a big pendulum. That's what all these planets in retrograde are. They're just big pendulums, and it's just like it's going over something and then moving a little bit more forward, and it's taking 3 steps back and 4 steps forward, and 3 steps back and 4 steps forward. So it's like we really need to learn these lessons. We really need to change. There's something about ourselves, something about our traditions, something about... I'm just rocking back and forth here. You know, it's just like it wants us to really get this in. You know, it wants us to sink in this information. It wants us to absorb as much as we can. It wants us to change the tradition. It's very necessary for our growth. You know, it's necessary for us to wake up every morning and put those crowns on our head and assume our proper leadership roles as kings and queens that we rightfully are, right? Thank you, as always, for hanging out with me. Have an illuminated day leading into the full moon lunar eclipse on Friday, and we'll talk with you more about that tomorrow. We'll see you then.